The Labour Party is facing yet another crisis, as Chancellor Rachel Reeves's inheritance tax proposal has ignited a rebellion among rural communities. Farmers from across the Midlands descended on Melton Mowbray in a dramatic protest against what they are calling a death sentence for family farms. The controversy has sparked widespread outrage, with Midlands Farmers Chair Simon Orson leading the charge, branding the policy as Labour's betrayal of Britain's heartland. But the scandal doesn't end there. In a shocking twist, new revelations suggest Labour's so-called tax reforms are riddled with inconsistencies, and some critics claim they serve the interests of wealthy investors rather than hard-working families. And just when you think things couldn't get worse for Labour, Keir Starmer's already dismal polling numbers have plummeted further after a shocking survey revealed Thatcher is more popular with Labour voters than their own leader. This political drama is spiralling out of control, with devastating consequences for Starmer's government. Stick around as we unravel the explosive twists in this scandal that's shaking the very foundation of Labour's rural support base. Let's watch the short interview from protest.
Let's speak to Simon, who's the chair of the Midlands Farmers Organisation, and we've got as well Sam, who's here as well, a farmer that's supporting it. What's been the reaction from the community here today?
It's been an incredibly positive reaction, to be honest with you, Will. Folks have come out in numbers. It's been well-natured, and we're all sort of singing from the same hymn sheet. No, it's been a fantastic reaction. I'm proud. I'm genuinely proud of the farming community coming out. It's sad that the only reason that have had to come out is because of Rachel Reeves's budget, but I'm proud that we have come out in such numbers.
There's been around 40 tractors circling Melton Mowbray today. Why does this matter? What are the complaints from farmers like you?
Main complaint is to do with inheritance tax. I mean, me speaking personally, on my own farm, come the day of demise of my father, I'll be hit with what looks to be an £800,000 inheritance tax bill. I haven't got that money to pay. No chance of paying that whatsoever. The government have very kindly said that I can pay that in 10 years interest-free, which is fantastic. Thank you very much, Rachel Reeves. Really appreciate that. The issue is, though, I'm not making £80,000 a year. I'm not even making £40,000 a year. I make £22,000 a year. So I've got to find £80,000 plus, whatever I need to live on. It's just not feasible. It isn't feasible, and it's not fair.
The government say that they need to tax farmers, and they need to tax particularly wealthy landowners who are buying up farmland because they need to pay for public services. Is that not a fair argument?
I mean, it would be a fair argument. However, the way that she wrote this budget, it doesn't actually stop the rich that are trying to shelter from inheritance tax from going out and buying more land. There's still an incentive there for them to go and buy land. This is hitting the small to medium sized family farm, pure and simple. They need to write a budget.
Protests in Melton Mowbray are just the latest in a series of blows for Labour. Farmers are furious, not only because of the devastating inheritance tax proposals, but because of what they see as the rank hypocrisy of the government. Simon Orson's speech, delivered to a crowd of hundreds, left no doubt about the stakes. This isn't just about my family's farm, it's about every farm in this country that Labour has put on the chopping block, he declared, his voice echoing through the streets. Rachel Reeves wants to take £800,000 from my family when my father passes. Meanwhile, the government is shipping £536 million overseas for foreign agricultural projects. Does that sound fair to anyone here? The crowd erupted into boos, their anger directed squarely at a government they say has turned its back on the rural communities that feed the nation. Protesters held signs with slogans like "Stop Labour's land grab" and "Tax fairly, not brutally." For many, this protest wasn't just about money, it was about survival. Farmers like Orson are warning that Labour's inheritance tax will force families to sell their land to pay off massive bills, leading to a wave of consolidations by wealthy investors. Labour claims this is about targeting the rich, Orson said, but the reality is the rich will find loopholes, as they always do. This tax is aimed at small and medium-sized farms, people like us. They're tearing apart our communities to fund their misguided priorities. Behind the scenes, Labour is reportedly in damage control mode. Party insiders have expressed concern that the policy, part of Rachel Reeves's controversial budget, could alienate the very voters Labour won over in the last election. And it's not just rural voters who are unhappy. Urban and suburban Labour supporters are also questioning the government's judgment after a series of missteps. The fallout is being felt across the party. Keir Starmer, already under fire for his uninspiring leadership, is now facing open dissent from within his ranks. One senior Labour MP, speaking anonymously, told reporters, "The inheritance tax issue is a disaster. Starmer's inability to connect with voters is making things worse. He's losing control of the narrative, and it's only going to get uglier." As if the inheritance tax debacle wasn't enough, Labour's troubles are compounded by shocking polling data. A new survey revealed that 14% of Labour voters prefer Margaret Thatcher, a Conservative icon, over Starmer. The poll, conducted by More in Common, showed that Starmer is ranked as the least popular Prime Minister of the past 40 years among Labour voters, scoring just 4%. One commentator summed it up succinctly: "When your own voters think Margaret Thatcher was a better leader, you've got a serious problem." This scandal is beginning to take on a life of its own, with the inheritance tax row serving as a lightning rod for broader discontent with Labour's governance. Simon Orson and his fellow protesters aren't backing down, and their movement is rapidly gaining traction. Social media has been ablaze with support for the farmers, with hashtags like #Labour tax betrayal and #Hands off our farms trending nationwide. And it's not just online. Across the country, rural communities are organising similar protests, vowing to hold Labour accountable for what they see as a betrayal of Britain's heartland. Labour came into power promising to help working people, Orson said, but their actions show the opposite. They're targeting the very people who've built this country from the ground up. We won't forget, and we won't forgive. The scandal shows no signs of abating, with new details emerging daily about the policy's flaws and the government's failure to anticipate the backlash. Political analysts are already speculating about the long-term damage to Labour's rural support base, with some warning that the party could face serious losses in key constituencies in the next election. But for Simon Orson and the farmers of Melton Mowbray, this fight is about more than politics. It's about preserving a way of life that's under threat from policies they say are short-sighted and deeply unfair. "This isn't over," Orson said as the protest concluded. "We're just getting started. Labour might think they can ignore us, but they'll learn soon enough that Britain's farmers don't back down. We'll keep fighting until they scrap this disastrous tax and start listening to the people who put food on their tables." As the sun set over Melton Mowbray, the farmers packed up their signs and tractors, but their message was loud and clear. They're not going anywhere until their voices are heard. And with Labour's leadership scrambling to contain the fallout, the stage is set for an explosive political showdown that could reshape the party's future.